Our friend and contributing editor Danny Blanchflower is here. He's a leading labor economist and economics professor
right here in the newsroom
at Dartmouth College. He's a former member, we should point out, a former member of the Bank of England's Monetary Policy Committee, so Danny knows a thing or two about monetary and fiscal policy. Danny, Robert Wolf is sitting with us as well, chairman of UBS Americas.
But, you know,
and
free.
He's a friend of the president. He's a Democrat. We figured that's one side of the analysis. We had to go a little further left, so we brought you in here.
What do you mean?
Give us a sense of what you heard from the president last night,
right,
and whether it lived up to your expectations.
Because, you've been calling for stimulus for a long time.
Yes, and I think yesterday Al Hunt and I were here talking about what we thought he would do, and I think the big thing was to pull a surprise, bigger than the 300 than the markets had expected, but also try and, if you like, give tax cuts to employers. Try and lower the price of labor and encourage jobs.
Did he do it?
I think so, and appeal to the American people. So as a labor economist, this was really about jobs, and it was trying to set a package where you say to the Republicans, these are things that you've called for before, vote for them, and the American people are going to be watching. And I think that's what he did. You need more stimulus. You need to try and get small firms moving. He tried to do that, and it really was trying to go across party lines, but you've got to do it. This is what you have to do.
I want to ask you both, though, about the effect, because Mark Zandi, chief economist at Moody's, estimates the plan is going to add 2 percentage points to real GDP growth and 1.9 million payroll jobs, reducing the unemployment rate by 1 percentage point. Does that calculation sound right? We spoke with Nariman Berovich yesterday from IHS Global Insight. He said $900 billion is what he wanted to see, because that was the only way to get the unemployment rate down by 1 or 2 full percentage points.
Well, obviously, there's a terrible word which policymakers use, which is path dependent. It really depends upon how big these headwinds are coming from Europe, coming from the sort of slowing growth. So maybe, but if we have bigger headwinds, then it's going to be harder to achieve that, and then maybe you have to do more later. This is a starter. We'll see. But the headwinds are very strong. Christine Lagarde this morning has been talking about exactly that. So this is conditional on where we are. Let's do this, but as long as it doesn't get worse, which it might.
You know, I'll just respond to the Mark Zandi comments. We know that GDP needs to be around 2.5% to get employment going. So if we're saying right now GDP is about 2% forecasted, and Mark thinks that this package increases GDP growth by another 2%, so we'll say 4% in the future, we know that that's going to bring jobs. Right. So, you know, it's growth, it's unemployment. You know, if you have Mark Zandi, who's well-respected, you know, I think he was on the McCain before, saying that, you know, he likes this package, you know, that's a positive. And that's kind of what I'm hearing from the business community. I would reiterate what Daniel said and what I said this morning. Employee and employer tax credits. Right. He also went with 100% tax credit immediately for investment and capital expenditures through 2012. Those are things that are pro-business. And as someone who's in the business world, those are things that our clients like to hear.
Gentlemen, we were talking during this break here about the details, as many details as we have. Basically, it's 60-40. That's how the president proposes we pay for this. 60% in cuts, 40% in spending. Is that the right balance, Danny? We'll start with you as a labor economist.
Well, it's probably a pretty good balance in the sense that you really want to get small businesses moving. You want the private sector to support this and lower the price of labor. That's a good idea. But we also have lots of unemployed construction workers out there that we'd like to make use of. So you start to say, we're going to rebuild schools, we're going to repair roads. What I've heard from the president is that these are jobs-heavy measures. And it's quite right now. He should be thinking jobs, jobs, jobs. And it's hard to think that the American people are not going to support at least that. And so that's the call to arms, if you like, labor-heavy project.
What's more effective? What's more effective? And Robert, please jump in whenever you feel like it, because we know from Erik Cantor last night there are some things that the Republicans are prepared to support. We have to presume that those are the tax cuts. They may not be as in favor of the spending proposals. So I want to know, and I think everybody wants to know from a labor economist's point of view, what actually adds more jobs? Cutting payroll taxes for businesses with less than 50 employers, or spending money on infrastructure, spending money on school refurbishment, spending money on mortgage refinancing?
Well, I like both of those things, but I think the political realities are you've got to get this done quickly, and you can appeal to folks through tax cuts. I mean, this is a cross-party issue. I've been calling for these kinds of tax cuts for a while. The issue particularly is it's not just announce it, it's get it done, get it implemented. And I heard Representative Cantor talking about there are things here we can get done and quickly. So I think my support would be get it done, start doing it right now. And if there's cross-party things, they should sit there, do them, and as he said, get it to the floor and get it voted on. So quick, I think, is best, and the private sector is going to support it. Let's hear.
Well, I'm not trying to be neutral here, but I think obviously the tax cuts is great to get money into the consumer. We're still a consumer-driven economy. But we have been touting the Economic Advisory Board, the Jobs Council, our firm Infrastructure. I just put out a press release for the White House. For every billion spent, it's north of 25,000 jobs.
Absolutely.
It is the best multiplier for GDP growth. For every dollar spent, it's a 1.6 multiplier. So,
but it takes a little while, doesn't it? I mean, I agree with you, but it does take a wee while to actually get rolling and for the jobs to show up.
It does, but if you look at what the president said last night, 35,000 schools.
Right.
Okay, highways and bridges immediately, airports immediately. You could fast forward those. I'm not talking about necessarily the private-public partnerships. That takes a little longer because they got to be merit-based and so on and so forth. But when you look at what we can do today, we just have to go outside and see, the airport congestion, the highways, the bridges, and the truth is that's paid for by user fees mainly. And so,
and enhance worker productivity. We get the economy moving, people are working more efficiently, moving more rapidly between places. That improves productivity.
Danny, we know we're saying goodbye to you, but quickly, how long do you think it's going to take?
Oh, well, to do what? To get unemployment down?
Yeah.
Well, obviously...
You said a wee while. I'm looking for a little more precision.
Well, unemployment it's going to take 6 months at least to start seeing these things really reacting in the numbers. And obviously, Obama's thinking very strongly about November 2012. You've got to start right now. Got to get it done quickly.
Danny, thanks for joining the conversation. Danny Blanchflower.